What's up, everyone? So my last video, I went through the process of diagnosing a bad TXV. And if you're not familiar with what a TXV is, it is a thermostatic expansion valve. It is one of the several metering devices that we use in HVAC. But I went through the process of diagnosing the bad valve. We got approval to replace it, so I'm going to start this process of replacing it pretty much from start to finish, unedited, besides trips to a truck. Hopefully there's not many. We're going to try to get this thing done pretty quickly. It's in the attic, and it's going to be 91 today here in South Carolina, but we got some overcast right now, so this attic should not be blistering quite yet. It is like 9 a.m. and I'm just now getting started, but we're going to pump all the refrigerant into the condenser through a pump down process. I'll show how to do that and get this thing repaired, and hopefully this fixes the problem. I feel very confident that it will. So but let's get started. Start off by removing the service panel. And then we have to take the caps off of the service valves that are, let me set you guys down, see if y'all can see this. This TXV is not shut closed. It's just not, I think we've lost a charge in the TXV bulb. So there's not a massive restriction. So we should be able to pump down this system. So we start off by fully closing the liquid valve. You get the little copper line is the liquid valve, and the larger copper line is your suction or vapor. It's the same thing. That's your low pressure line, that's your high pressure line. But we go ahead and close this high pressure line, this high pressure valve, 100%. Now that is 100% closed. You're going to want to hook up your gauges to check the pressure whenever we're pumping it down. I like to go ahead and start off by closing it at about 50%. we're gonna plug our power in because we're gonna have to energize this compressor. And you're gonna watch your gauges right here and start closing this suction valve pretty quickly. I've got these valves probably closed by about maybe 3 turns. We want to get as much of this refrigerant into this condenser as possible. The AC is calling, so we're gonna start hearing a ticking noise here in a second. All right, that's as much as we can get in there. And now we're gonna recover the rest of the refrigerant. All right. Hook up both of your manifold. I'm going to put a vacuum pump on this recovery machine. Sorry, recovery tank. Because we're going to reuse this refrigerant. We're going to pull through the vapor side. We're gonna measure this vacuum. I always keep my ballast open until I get like around 1500 to 1000 microns, and then I close that ballast. But these tanks right here, you never know the history on it. You don't know if it was used on a major contaminate on a unit that has major contamination, a burnout. We're at like 1100 microns. While this is pulling down, I'm gonna go grab one more hose because we're gonna recover the rest of the refrigerant inside the line set and evaporator coil. We're at 437 microns. We're going to continue to pull down a little bit further. And I'm going to explain to you guys what a TXV is, what it does. I mentioned it earlier in my video, but let's see if I can help explain it a little bit better. The TXV. So this is the thermostatic expansion valve, aka TXV, and its job is basically to meter just the right amount of refrigerant. It's going to be liquid refrigerant into the evaporator coil. Too little refrigerant and you don't use the entire coil, which that hurts capacity. Too much refrigerant and the liquid can make it back to the compressor, which can damage it. It goes through this valve and it flashes from a liquid to a vapor. And by the time it makes it through that evaporator coil and it's going back to the compressor, it is a 100% vapor. And this TXV does this by monitoring superheat. So it has the sensing bulb, which is this, strapped to the suction line or vapor line, whichever one you want to call it. And as that suction line warms up, the valve opens more to feed additional refrigerant. And as it cools down, the valve closes to reduce the refrigerant flow. Think of it like cruise control in a vehicle. Instead of your foot constantly adjusting the gas pedal, the TXV automatically adjusts the refrigerant flow to keep the evaporator properly fed under changing load conditions. And that's why TXVs, or systems with TXVs, tend to handle changing indoor temperatures, humidity, and airflow conditions better than like a piston or a fixed orifice. And for newer techs, remember the TXV controls superheat, not suction pressure. A low suction pressure doesn't automatically mean the superheat, or a low suction pressure doesn't automatically mean the TXV is bad. You still need to verify airflow, refrigerant charge, potential restrictions, and bulb placement and insulation before condemning the valve. And that last sentence alone would probably save the industry mountains of perfectly good TXVs, because honestly I don't diagnose a lot of bad TXVs. So some you can adjust, some you cannot, but yeah. So we're at 250 microns. I'm going to close off this valve, close my refrigerant or my vacuum pump valve, and let that sit. See what it does. But we're going to start our recovery process here soon. You're going to go from your manifold to your suction side on this recovery machine. And then you're going to take another hose and go from the discharge to the actual recovery tank. I prefer to use one with a ball valve, but that's not mandatory. And we're not performing like a perfect decay test on this this tank, but after a minute and 40 seconds, we've only gone up 3 microns. So I'm gonna close this tank completely. Turn off my micron gauge because I need to change my batteries. Make sure the vapor side is closed. Get your scale. And we're going to weigh in how much refrigerant that we recover. So this tank weighs exactly 28 pounds 1 ounce right now, so we're going to zero it. I personally hook up to the vapor side for a quicker recovery. What I like to do, and what I've learned to do from others, is first off, we're going to purge our hoses of all the air that's inside the hoses before we open up the tank. So that's very important, especially if we're reusing the refrigerant. So we're going to open up our gauges, crack this, and wait until it's liquid refrigerant coming out. All right, we got some liquid that just spewed out. All right. Now open up all your hoses. Remember, we were going to weigh this in. Crack open your valve and start recovering. Now we have a vacuum on this unit, or on this tank, so we don't really need the recovery machine quite yet. You can go ahead and turn it on if you like. Always like to leave it off until I have to. This is not going to stay up for whatever reason. This ground must not be level. There we go. And it helps if you plug it in. I'm gonna grab an extension cord. So we're not getting much refrigerant at all. We're down into a negative pressure. We're gonna let that sit a minute just to make sure that we truly are on zero. It appears that we are. So we only got 7 ounces out. Yep, we're empty. So then what I do is remove my high side, my liquid side Schrader valve, hook up my Apion tool, and go ahead and start flowing nitrogen through that system, because we're going to unsweat a portion of that TXV. Take your valve core remover tool, remove that Schrader valve. All right, we're going to hook up our yellow hose, the utility hose, to the nitrogen. And we're going to start flowing nitrogen. through that system. Oh, just busted my butt with that clean out. So you got your regulator on braze. We're gonna take our tool bag upstairs, my dryer, it's a bi-flow dryer, expansion valve, and torches. Might have to end up cutting that drain, most likely. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna turn off this blower so you guys can hear me better. I'm gonna go grab some. I'm gonna try to avoid cutting that drain. But seems like I left my cutters. My copper cutters outside. And I'm gonna grab my knee pad so I can at least get a little bit more comfortable. No big deal. I'm going to remove this dryer. I'd like to go ahead and cut back some of that insulation on that suction line. There's a zip tie. Kind of get this piece of this door out of the way. Don't know honestly how to loosen that clamp. There we go. All right, got our torches. Unsweat this feeder tube right here. You don't need much heat for this. Might need a little bit more than that. Take both your wrenches. Break that nut loose. Old expansion valve. I was wondering if it had a screen in it, but there's no screen. Put that feeder tube in there. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and mount this valve first. It should have came with a pack of O-rings. These little Teflon O-rings, you gotta put these back in. And I use Nylog on all my threads. Especially on the face of that flare, which you can't get on there. Did not come with a new clip. This clip does not fit. On the new valve. See how this new valve, this old valve doesn't have that adjustable piece that is capped right here. I believe you can adjust that TXV with a special tool.
with that valve. Interesting. This mounts the bulb. Yeah, no clip. I wonder if I can just mount it with at least if I can get one screw in it right there. But then that doesn't line up. So if I move it over, it should. If I move it, instead of using that one, I use maybe use that one. And then we can, I think that works. We're gonna make sure we blow that out, but that's gonna work just like that. That TXV is secure. So I'm gonna go downstairs, blow some nitrogen, some high pressure nitrogen through there, just to make sure we didn't get any insulation trapped. I should be able to just cut a little bit of pipe off of. It's getting hot up here now, boys. And girls. Just fine. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to sweat in the feeder tube. We're gonna wait for this to cool off so we can mount that TXV bulb. All right, 3 products we're using right now. We're going to use the Viper Wet Rag Heat Putty to protect that TXV valve. Sorry, the TX. So I just said TXV valve, so I said thermostatic suspension valve. We're going to use it to protect this TXV. We are going to use the Viper Micro Leak Detector, aka Big Blue, to test for any leaks. I've already got the feeder tube sweated in, brazed in. And then we also have the Viper Pan and Drain treatment, because they've obviously had some drain issues before. So I'm gonna spray that into the pan. Because why not? All right. First things first, we're going to mount this bulb. If you notice, there's a little flat spot on this suction line. That's where the bulb sits. Just right there. All right, that bulb is secure. Get that little wrap around, just like that. And it did not come with any insulation. So I've got some in my van. Gotta make sure that bulb is insulated. Brought a couple zip ties just to ensure this insulation does not come loose. There we go. And now we can kind of put this door back on. I think that this little clip was right here. I know you guys probably can't see it. Just moving this metal clip back down. This clip right here against that frame of that coil. Okay. Now, one thing that I do is I put some wet rag heat block on my dryers. To try to help protect that paint over time. It's more important if it's outside, but still, it's good practice. All right, we're ready to braze. Let's see here, where's my striker? Where are you? There you are. What's happening right now is I call them little stingers. I need some gloves before I burn myself on that stinger. Don't get most of our use out of that, but we'll save it since it's so expensive nowadays. All right, now we're gonna go outside, pressurize the system, and make sure that we hold pressure. There we go. Looks like we might have a leak. Let's go upstairs and see if we can catch it. She's out of the restroom? Okay. Interesting. Will be a pinhole leak. That's why you pressurize. That's why you leave your torches up wherever you're brazing. It's a lot easier for two people. our Schrader again. This is a brand new regulator, and when I put it on braze, it's too much pressure. I've realized that. My last one did the same. I've had this is my third one of these. My first one worked great, and all of a sudden I couldn't. Honestly, what happened is I dropped it, and this broke right here, and I couldn't. There we go. Couldn't loosen or tighten the regulator. Those regulators have a lifetime warranty, and I had it replaced, and when I put it on braze, it was too high of a pressure. Like, it should be very low pressure, almost like a baby's breath, and you could. It was like, I mean, it's pretty high pressure. So I got them to replace it, and this new one's doing the same exact thing. Put the Schrader back in. .170 psi. Let's go spray these joints. I also forgot to mention the nylog for my threaded fitting right there. Look at that paint. No burn marks at all. Okay, we can start putting this door back on because I feel pretty good. There's no leaks. I was mostly concerned about that threaded fitting, but we're good there. One other thing is just try to keep your copper and aluminum and all that from vibrating and rubbing against things. I've seen leaks like that happen. And I like to just go ahead and spray some. We can actually just pour it into that P-trap. Now we go put a vacuum pump on the system. And start cleaning up. I will come back up here and re-insulate that vapor line. we got all this put back together. I got a vacuum pump on the system. We're insulated. Plug this disconnect back in. Let's put this cover back on. .453 microns. So the maintenance guy came around here and started talking to me. So I was looking at my vacuum pump and everything, but I didn't get that stuff on video. Unfortunately, I wanted to show y'all, but what I do is, especially on a system that has a charge inside the condenser, I hook up my vacuum gauge, my micron gauge, right here directly to the liquid port. Had my suction valve core removed and pulled through my Apion tool. So we're measuring the furthest away from my vacuum pump, so we get a true reading on a vacuum. We're currently down to 433 microns. So what I'm going to do is shut that pump off, close my valves. So I'm going to close this valve right here and this valve right here, turn my pump off, and come over here and do a decay test for 10 minutes. And I really don't want to rise above 500 microns after 10 minutes. And I believe the book probably says to stay below 750 microns, but I like to stay below 500 microns. So we'll do this for 10 minutes and come back to it. And what I like about the Testo gauges is you can actually graph the decay test. I don't know, the last fill piece ones that I own, you couldn't do that, but I don't know who else you can graph pressure test and decay test with, but it's pretty cool. So So after 3 minutes, we're above 500. So we're gonna continue pulling lower. I'm actually gonna go look at one real quick. Oh, this is pulling down. So I'll be back probably in an hour or so. Let this continue pulling down. All right, I just got back from lunch. We're at 235 microns. So we're gonna do our decay test. Into my decay test, and we've gone up to a 364 microns. So this system is dehydrated enough. Great, it's good enough to open up these valves and go ahead and start the system up. So we're gonna go ahead and crack open our liquid. Put our Schrader back in. Go ahead and open up the suction valve. I'm going to change all this, but I'm going to turn this video is primarily on this TXV valve. This video is primarily on this TXV replacement. I'm going to fix all this after our startup. think it's running a lot better than it was the other day. The system calls for a 10-degree subcooling. We'll see what this equalizes to. Always use Nylog, because why not? Charge is going to be right on point. Go ahead and put my vacuum pump up. .2 degrees subcooling. It's calling for 10. It's not like severely overcharged or nothing, but we're going to put a little bit back in here. This is my boy. This is my baby boy right here, swinging. Man, if that don't make your day working out here in the heat, I don't know what does. I'm gonna let a little bit more in here. I think we're good now. We got it pretty much dialed in and confirmed it was a bad TXV. All right, I've been sitting here for the last 15-20 minutes and watching these pressures and temperatures. That subcoolant's bouncing between 10 and 11, and the superheat's been between like 13 and 14. So 43-degree saturation temperature on the suction side and 102.6 on the liquid side. 127 degree or 127 psi suction pressure, 332 psi head pressure. So I think we're good. We're draining, we're cooling, cutting this thing loose. This thing is cooling like a champ. Both our caps back on. Hey, I was letting you know you're good to go, okay?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good one.
Good?
Yes, ma'am. It's cool and great. Everything looks great now.
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
You too. You too. Bye-bye.